Hey guys, my name is Thiago. I'm a second year medical student, and on this video I'm going to be interviewing my friend who's a family doctor, and he's doing a +1 and Hey guys, Welcome to the video. I'm interviewing my friend Jonathan Taylor. Hey man, how you doing?
I'm doing well, thank you.
Okay. Jonathan is a family doctor, and he is doing his +1 rotations right now in anesthesiology. Well, his current rotation is CHIO here in Ottawa, so it's actually really cool because we haven't seen each other in many years.
I've been running away from you for a while.
He's been all over the country trying to dodge me. We initially met through the Altitude program or mentorship program at medical schools that Nassim had. I was a first-year undergrad, he's a first-year medical student, and ever since I never stopped chasing him and he never stopped running. Is that right?
Sounds about right.
All right.
Got an email from the mentoring program one day telling me a keen first-year undergraduate student wanted to learn how to get into med school from me. And little did I know, 7 years later, he would be today.
He's still asking questions.
Haven't gone away yet. Here we go.
Wait, why don't you tell people watching where you did your undergrad, where you did medical school?
Yeah, so undergrad, I finished high school. Didn't have a whole lot of interest in school at the time. So I signed up for a science degree actually initially. And about 2 months before I started my undergrad degree, it was actually my mom that took me aside and said, "You sure you want to do a science degree? Because I'm pretty sure you don't like physics or chemistry." And I realized, shoot, I don't think I want to do a science degree. So it was my cousin, Allison, actually, who suggested I do kinesiology because she knew that I loved sports. So I did that through McMaster, and then basically took a year off after I did that. Went backpacking for a year, and made it around the world. Pretty fun year. It was good. And then after that, went to grad school, back and back again, and then worked in sales and marketing for a year, and then went to med school. So I did that up at the Northern Ontario School of Medicine in their Sudbury campus, and then did family medicine through McMaster through Collingwood's rural program. And then went back to Nassim up in Sudbury for the extra year of anesthesia. And here we are, almost done. Three months to go, and the end is in sight.
You're almost an adult.
Yeah.
I just want to highlight for the people listening, for the pre-meds, that it took you 4 years applying until you finally got in.
You had to say that on TV.
No, this is encouraging to people.
Yeah, no, there's no shame. I was embarrassed at the time because I kept applying over and over and over to med school. And every year just kept coming back as no. But 4 years later, someone took me. And then I got into med school and realized my story was actually pretty common. And at least in our program, the average student applied 2.8 times before they got in. And it's good. One of my good buddies from med school spent 6 years applying, and he's an awesome budding internist now, and we all had different journeys getting there, but lots of perseverance to get there.
Yeah, the neat thing is, sometimes people message me asking, what should I do now that I don't have an interview? But if you really want it, just keep going, keep focusing on your application. I remember messaging Jonathan when I didn't get in, and he just said, just relax, make your application better, keep trying. And there's nothing wrong if you don't want to continue pursuing medicine. But for those of you that really want it, it's normal to not get in within 2 years or more. It took me 2 years, took him 4 years, and his friend 6 years. So average that out and just keep trying and do your best. Why did you choose to go into family medicine?
Good question. So I didn't have a whole lot of interest in family medicine when I first started out. I wanted to actually do orthopedic surgery. Because I'd done kinesiology as an undergrad and thought that orthopedics seemed like a natural fit. And then I started spending time in the operating room and realized the last thing I wanted to do was be a surgeon, and there were no jobs in orthopedics. So then I wanted to be a OBGYN for a little while. That was partly because I had done a great rotation with a physician in Fergus, Ontario, who's a OBGYN there. And he loved his job, was great with his job, and I thought, maybe I could do that. Then I went to Kenya for an elective. So I did an elective there after my first year of med school, and basically did a month of internal there. Mm-hmm. Came away from that thinking, maybe I could be an internist. And then
everything.
It's all over the place, yeah. And then towards the end of probably second year of med school, I started thinking oh, maybe family could be good. But I knew that I also wanted to do some level of emerge, because like I love acute care. It just kind of fits my personality. It's a bit of an adrenaline rush. It's quite an adrenaline rush, or it can be at least. So the plan actually all along from pretty well the latter 2 years of med school was to do an extra year of emergency medicine training through the family medicine route. And then I started residency and got 6 months into residency and jumped ships and decided I'd apply for the extra year of anesthesia rather than emerge. And here I am.
So you didn't apply to the Emerge Plus one?
No, it was it was interesting because two of my good buddies from med school, we were all pretty keen on doing the Emerge program and studied together and did certain rotations together. We got published together in an Emerge journal, and we were all hoping to do Emerge, and actually only one of the three of us actually ended up applying at the end of the day. And I remember in med school, one of my staff told me, he's like, yeah, lots of people got in for the +1 Emerge year, but not a lot of people actually end up doing it in the end. I remember thinking that's not going to be my story, but here we are. Found something different that I really enjoy. So.
Yeah, and just for curiosity, like, is your friend who applied to the emergency, did he get in?
Yeah.
Okay, because I know it's more competitive than the actual Emerge.
Yeah, it's pretty competitive. I don't think anyone knows what the actual numbers are, but yeah, there's a lot of competition around it. But but I often, I'm doing the extra year of anesthesia, but like I'm a family doctor by trade and never will be an anesthesiologist because I haven't done the Royal College route. I will always be a family doctor with extra training in anesthesia. So,
okay.
Yeah, it's been good. But I think my reasons for doing family medicine were pretty broad, as I think most people's were. I think I was initially interested in mainly the flexibility in terms of how many hats that you get to wear. I get bored pretty easily and changed my mind a lot, and found like family medicine could be a great avenue for that, because I don't want to get stuck doing the same thing all the time.
Yeah.
And I've done enough rotations with family doctors to see that your scope of practice can look very broad. It can look very different based on what you want it to be. It's a bit of a choose your own adventure, kind of depending on what community you work in. But I think the diversity and just the versatility of or the flexibility of being able to try and do a bunch of different things and to change it throughout the career was probably the biggest reason for me. I think portability was a big part of it too. The nice thing about being a family doctor is you can pretty well work anywhere you want, in this country at least. So there's jobs everywhere. I always knew I wanted to do rural medicine, so there are lots of jobs in rural communities, and I've got an interest in working overseas too. And had chatted with a couple overseas organizations that had said family doctors are well trained, and we can of all the physicians out there, they're tend to be the ones in the highest need, just because of their broad scope of skills and knowledge. So a variety of reasons I think were why I ended up picking it in the end.
That's neat. So why did you lean towards doing rural over academic?
Yeah, so a few reasons. Most of my life has been in rural communities. And I think the thought of being in downtown Toronto or something feels very unfamiliar, and it just doesn't feel like home. So I think there's an environmental perspective to it that kind of influenced my decision, just in terms of familiarity. But I think the scope of practice is also a big part of it too. When you're a rural family doctor, depending on how rural or remote you are, you get to do a lot. Going back to kind of my interest in wearing multiple hats, I think that was a big part of it for me, is just the appeal to being able to do a lot versus some of the more urban practices. They tend to be a little more focused, and I think your tendency to refer out tends to be higher, just because you have specialists all around you, versus when you're in rural communities. A lot of the times you are the one to try and figure it out, and if you need to refer, that's totally appropriate and fine. But your patients may have to travel a couple hundred kilometers to go see a specialist, for example. So I think you're pushed a little bit, or forced a little bit more to try and manage the patients maybe a little bit more independently, as as you see fit, or as is safer in your scope of practice.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think the job description was part of it. I think my own interest in rural living was a big part of it. My training through NOSM had been predominantly rural based, and so I was quite familiar, and I think I had a better understanding of kind of what a rural model would look like. I mean, even as I'm rotating through Ottawa here, I met my first fellow a couple weeks ago, and I've heard of fellows for my whole training, but I never actually worked in a hospital where they had any fellows.
Oh.
So I bumped into one the other day. I was like, "Oh, you're a fellow. I've heard of you." Just because all the rural communities that I worked in, for the most part, it's medical students and sometimes residents. Yeah, the nice thing about doing rural family medicine is you got to do a little bit of everything. And one day you'd be in emerge, the next day you'd be in anesthesia, the next day you'd be in clinic, the next day you'd be a surgical assist, and in the middle of that, maybe there was an interesting intubation that you could do. So yeah, I think your day-to-day work looks pretty different. So.
That's really neat.
Yeah.
Is there, when you kind of reflect on your family medicine experience so far, is there like a favorite aspect or a part of it that stands out?
Yeah, skiing on Fridays in Collingwood was pretty good. Really enjoyed that element of family medicine. Had going back to the work-life balance. I had one so I did residency through Collingwood, and we had one shift on a Friday, and there was like a slot between 11 a.m. and 1 p.m. where no patients were scheduled, and I'd done all my notes and charting for the morning, and my staff's like, "What are you going to do with your 2 hours?" I was like, "Oh, I got to get like 4 runs in at Blue Mountain," so I rushed over the mountain and did a couple of runs and came back to clinic. So I think I think just like the flexibility that often comes with working in kind of a rural context can be great. There's the downsides to it too.
I think you already answered the question about why you picked +1.
Why I picked anesthesia? Yeah, so I actually thought anesthesia was super boring when I was a med student. I remember sitting in the OR next to the anesthetist who was doing a crossword, and looking at all the machines and the ventilator and all these numbers, and I didn't know what any of it meant, and listening to all the beeps and the noises, thinking like, this is really boring. This is not what I would want to do with my career. It's ironic because I actually really enjoy it now. But I remember saying to one of my staff once, I said to him, I was like, no disrespect, but like, how do you not get like bored doing what you're doing? And he's like, what do you mean? I was like, well, everything's like going smoothly and fine. There's not a lot to do. And he's like, yeah, but when it doesn't go smoothly, like you're the guy. You've got to figure this stuff out. And so like, yeah, there's a lot of downtime in anesthesia, but like when things go wrong, like you need to act like immediately and figure it out. And so I think with that in mind, like it just became more interesting. And I think there's a couple different types of personalities in medicine, but I think there are those who love the intellectual aspect of medicine, and a lot of those people go into specialties like internal medicine where they love the details. And then there are proceduralists, which I totally fall into. I love just like the hands-on work and the exposure of like putting in an art line or a central line, intubating patients, doing spinals, doing epidurals, just like the satisfaction of like actual tangible techniques that you're doing with your hands, that you see like an immediate difference in the patient. I think that personality generally tends to fit more with surgery than medicine. That's totally a part of why I kind of started getting interested in anesthesia as well. And I always knew that from end of second year and third and fourth year med school, I always knew I wanted to do emerge. And so actually when I even started family medicine, the plan was still to do an extra year of emerge, or at least apply for an extra year of emerge. And then I started working with a lot of staff in the emergency department that had trained with an extra year of anesthesia and were still doing emerge. So I started chatting with some of them about that. They're like, in anesthesia, you learn a lot of critical care skills that you'll need in emergency departments. And a lot of them told me, if you do the extra training of emergency medicine, that's great. But if you do the extra training of anesthesia, like you can work anesthesia and emergency medicine, versus if you do the training of the extra year of emerge, you work emerge and you're better trained for sure. But you can also do anesthesia.
Yeah.
So again, partly why I wanted to do anesthesia was just kind of that broader diversity of skills that I thought it would give me, and just more opportunities.
Cool.
Yeah.
Is there anything else that you would like to share to like any pre-meds or medical students listening before we wrap up this video?
Yeah, a couple things. I think when I was applying to medical school and wasn't getting in, it was largely because my grades in my first year of undergrad were subpar, which overall brought my GPA down for the whole 4 years. But I think I got really focused on just getting into med school and life being about getting into med school. And when you're on the other side of it, you realize, like, yeah, being a physician can be a great career, but like there are a lot of really, really, really good careers out there too. And medicine's not all it's chalked up to be. It's good. I'm glad I'm here. I really am. But there's a lot of other things that like I could totally see myself doing too that I really would have loved and enjoyed. So I think avoiding the trap of getting so focused on only becoming a physician that you don't think broader in terms of maybe some other potential options for career choices would be one. I think to the med students in the crowd, hang in there, you will get through. I spent pretty well my first 6 months in med school thinking that someone was going to walk through the front door at any moment and say, Jonathan Taylor, are you here? And I'd sheepishly put up my hand and they'd say, oh, we've made a mistake. You're not actually supposed to be in this class. Can you please leave right now? And I know it's stupid and irrational, but like that's kind of how I felt for like the first 6 months.
I feel like everybody goes through that.
Well, I didn't know this until like probably 8 months into med school, and I was like telling some of my new buddies in med school this story, and they're like, "What? You feel that way?" I was like, "Yeah," and they're like, "Man, I think that every day."
Yeah.
And there were 4 of us in the group, and we're all like, "Wow, we all think that." Like, okay, we're not alone. So, yeah, I think if you're starting out in med school, like you got chosen for a reason. Stick with it. And I think if you're towards the latter half of med school and starting to think about different residency options, there's no wrong answer. I think ultimately Carms chooses where you go and what you're doing, but at the end of the day, you make the most of your situation and you find joy in the type of medicine that you're doing and purpose within that, and it's going to be okay. Yeah, I think those are some of my pearls that I've probably learned over the years. Also, if you're in med school, careful with finances. People spend so much money because there's this hope and expectation that you will make a lot of money one day. And the income will come, but I've got buddies that are 5-10 years ahead of me and have been physicians for 10 years and are still paying off their debt from med school because they racked up so much debt. So be careful with it. Yeah, it's a trap I think a lot of people kind of get stuck in. So yeah, I'd advise being cautious in that department too. And then at the end of the day, like finding a work-life balance is really important. We heard that over and over and over again throughout med school. And I remember our dean telling us on the first day, like, yeah, try and have a work-life balance. And in my mind, I was like, no, I just need to study. And then I quickly realized I was going to burn out if I kept doing that. So I actually took Sundays off throughout med school. And for the most part, sometimes I was on call, but for the most part, I was able to take Sundays off completely. And it was just so nice, like having one day a week off where you just like weren't thinking about medicine. And I love spending time outdoors, so I just do outdoor activities. And it was good for my soul. So I like finding activities that regenerate your enthusiasm and you're passionate about and are good for your soul is really important. Whether you're doing medicine or really any other career. It's kind of general life advice.
Sure.
So,
well, thank you very much for answering the questions and sharing some of your experience. I hope everybody who's been listening gained a lot of value from that. And if you guys like this video, make sure to like it. Make sure to comment down in the description. If you have any more questions for myself or for Jonathan, I can just shoot him a text and we can shoot another video, maybe through Zoom once he moves away from Ottawa until I chase him again. That's it for this video, and I'll see you guys next time.
Even if you didn't like it, don't hit unlike, because this is my first video.
Yeah, just
that would
keep
be hard on me.
Like, please, for the self-esteem.